Only mode.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's RISMedia Agent Webinar Series. Today's broker topic is actually one of my favorite topics, and we have incredible guests here with us today. We're going to talk today about bringing on the best, finding, hiring, and keeping your next superstars. And we've got two of the best at it in the country sharing with you their best practices. I'm Burl Workman, founder and CEO of Workman Success Systems, and I've been asked to host today's webinar. I'm excited that you're here, and I promise it'll be a time well spent. We want to first let you know a couple of housekeeping items. During the call today, as you listen to the business models and what we're doing to recruit and retain and keep agents, and successful agents at that, you're going to have questions. I encourage you to use the control panel on your GoToWebinar sidebar to ask questions. During the call, we'll be monitoring those questions and asking at appropriate breaks as we're talking to each of the presenters. Also, make sure you stay on to the very end of the call. We're going to give you a page that you can go to and download some valuable information that's going to be given to you by each of the presenters today, as well as a copy of the session notes. So make sure you stay on until the very end. As we do these RISMedia webinars each month, we're very grateful to the sponsors that make them possible. And today we have one of our good friends and clients, DocuSign, as our sponsor and partner in this call. And Sean McNamara is here. Sean McNamara with DocuSign is here. And I got to tell you, Sean, I use DocuSign every single day in my business as well as in our real estate practice as a team. And it's made our life much easier. I can't imagine going back to the days where we didn't have DocuSign. So thanks for being a partner with us. We appreciate your support. Tell us what's new with DocuSign right now. What's going on?
Well, thanks, Burl. Pleasure to be with you again. I love hearing stories like that. It's really music to our ears. You know, when you can impact other people's business in such a profound way, it's incredibly rewarding. I want to quickly thank RISMedia as well as our panelists today. And everyone who's joined us on the webinar. We really appreciate you joining us. I'll give you kind of a quick background on DocuSign for anyone who's not familiar. DocuSign pioneered electronic signatures back in 2003, and over the last 13 years has become the global standard for electronic and digital signatures and the clear leader in the digital transaction management transformation. DocuSign actually started in real estate and has since expanded to virtually every other industry you can think of. Insurance, financial services, government, higher education, healthcare are a few examples. Our current partners include 10 of the top 15 U.S. financial services companies, 13 of the top 15 U.S. insurance carriers, more than 1,000 credit unions, and DocuSign is the official and exclusive e-sign partner of the National Association of Realtors. You know, regarding our topic today, recruiting and retention is a very common topic of conversation with DocuSign and our partners, just given its importance for brokers. An effective recruiting and retention message needs to resonate with its intended audience and to be viewed as valuable to have its desired effect. This is where DocuSign comes in. DocuSign is commonly a significant component of the recruiting and retention pitch for our partners because of the value that it holds with agents. And the value comes from a few different areas. First and foremost, Verlo, and you just alluded to it, the efficiencies that it creates for our users. Going from a manual paper-based process to a digital process gives the opportunity to make your time more effective, to generate significant hard dollar cost savings, but it's also the ease of use for both our users as well as your clients, your buyers and sellers. And then lastly, DocuSign's industry-leading platform availability and data security gives all of our partners confidence that their data is safe and under tight lock and key when they're using DocuSign.
Well, it's awesome, and we love having you as a partner, and we love the product. You know, I'm a closer by nature, and I love being on a phone call with someone and saying, okay, now I just sent you the documents. Do you have them in your hand? And they'll look on their computer and they'll say, I have them. I say, okay, now click on accept, and let's go through the process of getting the signatures where I need them. Let me know when you've hit accept, and I know the transaction's complete. It's moved the close in a complicated transaction to a much easier process, and I'm grateful to have that tool at my arsenal.
You bet. That's great to hear, bro.
So let's jump right in And I'm excited. Matter of fact, when I had an opportunity to speak with Vince the other day, I was blown away at his enthusiasm, his energy, his culture, the business that he's built. Vince Leisey is with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Ambassador Real Estate in Omaha, Nebraska. And let me just give you a little bit of background on Vince. Vince's mother started the business in 1984, where he then took over in 2001. So he's a family of real estate people, and I love that. His Omaha's office has grown from the 100 agents where it was when he took over to over 500 in just a few short years. What's really cool is that when you look at the numbers, that includes 250 licensed assistants and buyer's agents. A lot of brokerages say that they're team friendly, but they're not team focused. His business is completely team focused. They'll close 7,000 units. They're one of they're, if not the number one, they're dang close to being the most productive residential office in all of North America. And that says a lot about not only the agents and the teams that they build, but it says a lot about the leadership. Ambassador Real Estate has raised more than $1.5 million for Sunshine Kids. And I can't tell you how much that means to me, because I'm a big believer in giving back to the communities that support our businesses so well. And it's one thing to say that we give back. It's another to put 7 figures to that, and that's very impressive. I love that Vince is the founder and chief advisor for the Rethink Council, a brainstorming group of young agents, the millennials from across the country, and they're getting together next week. I'm sure Vince will tell us a little bit more about that, but I just want you to know this is the real deal. Vince is an enthusiastic leader and has done amazing things not only for his office, but for the nation's real estate offices who want to incorporate and build teams from a recruiting and retention perspective. So Vince, thanks for being on the call. Welcome, and let's talk about how you're creating greatness.
Well, thank you very much. I'm excited about being here. As I said earlier, I just moved into a new office today, so I'm hoping I have the same enthusiasm as we talked a couple of days ago.
Hey, you know, you talk about the new office. Tell us about the new office, because it kind of sets the stage for the culture and the environment that you build as a leader. Tell me about this new office. It's no small task, and it's no small building either.
No, it's not. Really, our entire organization is built on the concept, how do we create a culture where we have an environment that's full of energy, excitement, enthusiasm, where people are walking around with passion and positive attitudes. And so as we built this new building, which is 105,000 square feet, including 81,000 square feet of finished square feet, we're taking currently about 60,000 square feet of that as we're moving in here over the next month to it. We just started today. But we wanted in this building to create spaces and an environment where people absolutely were excited and wanted to come to work on a daily basis. So we've literally tried to situate this so it attracts every walk of agents. We start out with the part-time agent. We're going to have 100 lockers, which will have a bunch of hotel agent cubes for people just to come in, plug in a computer or a phone or whatever, make some phone calls, put their stuff back in the locker, and leave. To the corners of our buildings, we have about, I guess, a dozen suites built out for our large teams that have anywhere from 3 agents to them to 25 agents to them. So we've really tried to cover all aspects, but the things that we try to do to create that culture that excited them is some things I stole from an array of people. Is we put a kitchen in that was similar to what I'd seen at Google's campus a couple times I saw in New York City, where we have a bar area with 10 bar stools around it, and we have collaboration areas and sitting areas, and it sets off of a balcony that overlooks the tree line that has some additional things. So we want that to be inviting for people to come together, and just in the last couple of days as people started getting here, it's amazing how that area is just jam-packed. All the way to we're putting a gym in the building where we've got showers, and it's going to kind of be, you know, like a W Hotel or upscale Marriott type of thing, where there'll be 2 rooms, and literally we have TVs and showers and machines in there for people. So we've had tons of our agents actually just this month are canceling their gym memberships. And the last thing that kind of sticks out is maybe something that's different is that we're having a custom-made conference room table that's a ping pong table, just for the people to have fun. So what we try to tell our agents is, you know what, let's come to work, and when we work, let's work with purpose, but let's try to also give them an environment where they can take a break and have some fun and relax. So we've really tried to think about every aspect. Another thing that we have that I'm very excited about is we have we have a number of prospecting booths in the building for agents. So there's no excuse for an agent to say, oh, I can't prospect because I'm in the open or I'm in a shared office or something like that. Block it out for an hour. Go to one of the prospecting booths. I can't imagine they're all going to ever be full, but we don't want to give the agent any excuses for not prospecting because we know they need to be doing that on a regular basis.
I love it. Sounds like an office I'd like to come work at, not only because I love ping pong, but because it sounds like a fun environment. So, Vince, let me ask you this. You've got a big focus on this collaboration and this whole concept of working with millennials. Tell me what your thoughts are there and why you have such a strong focus there.
But to me, it's kind of simple math, is that if you look at the numbers, when I spoke at RISMedia about a year ago, September, right after me there was a panel, and one of the people on the panel was a lady from Google. But if you look at the numbers, that Google says by 2017, 50% of the homes purchased in the United States will be by millennials. Now, the National Association of Realtors came out with a survey a little bit over 2 years ago that said only 7% of the industry is a millennial. The average age of the real estate agent is 59. And so in my mind, you've got this disconnect of the number of people buying houses, which I believe was 30-some% of the houses last year were millennials, from what I've been told, to maybe, the 7% maybe has grown to 10, 11, 12%. There's a huge disconnect of the amount of millennials in the business relative to our clients, which has a huge portion of them being millennials. So I believe one is that my study groups have shown that millennials would rather work with people close to their age. Two is if they're truly going to be the generation that's going to have the greatest buying power of any generation in the marketplace by 2017, which I believe they will be, we need to understand how to communicate with them, how to relate with them, how to attract them to our business. And so the more that I can study this, I think the better prepared we are as an organization, because the truth of the matter is 25, 30, 35, and 40-year-old agents are much more the future of a real estate broker than the average age of 59. Those people are winding down, their energy levels left. So we really, while we love agents of all age groups, we truly believe that millennial generation is the future of our business. One of the things, as I studied them, that became extremely apparent to me is they are a generation of collaboration, teams, doing things together, completely unlike the baby boomer generation, which is it's me against the world, I don't need anybody else's help. This is a generation that has really taken business to the next level. And in fact, if you look at my three largest teams in regards to closed transactions, it's a 33-year-old who has 25 people on his team. It is a 29-year-old who has 8 people on his team. And it is a 31-year-old who has about 12 people on his team. Every one of those teams are doing over 350 closed transactions, and the vast majority of people on those teams are millennials. So we want to set up an environment where they're excited to come here, where they want to be here, and where we are team-friendly. I'll talk a little bit here in the future about how a lot of brokers get in debates with me that, you're giving away the farm and you can't make money and so forth. And I will argue with them when I show some graphs of our market share and other things that I think that's a very short-term perspective and they're missing the bigger picture. And I think we've proved in our market that you can grow substantially if you're willing to support not only the lead agents, but all of the agents on the team, which philosophically is what our goal always is as a management team, is to support every agent within our organization, regardless of team leader, individual, or so forth.
So talk to me about your philosophy and the philosophy of Berkshire Hathaway towards teams and what that really means. And I've got a slide on the screen that kind of breaks that down, but take me through it.
Let me read what you got on the screen here. I apologize. Yeah, so this is what I talked about at RISMedia a couple of years ago, is that basically I think the vast majority of large brokers just have the wrong perception. I believe that we're taking a short-term view, and the short-term view is that, that they're costing me money, they're sucking the time out of me, they're taking additional space from me, and we're not making any money on these additional team members. And I would argue in most cases, those are all probably true statements. But if you take a long-term perspective, I think you'll find something very different happening. And I will give you 3 examples just over the last 30 days of what has happened within our organization. If you support all the agents on the team, here's what happens. It allows you to maintain top producers by giving them a vehicle to grow their business, grow their income, and create a team. It allows you to recruit other top producers at other agencies to come to your organization. It gives the new agent, that 23, 25, 27-year-old is less likely to make it, in my experience, on their own within a brokerage. It gives them an additional support system. It gives them an additional chance of making it in this business. So our likelihood of a young person being successful by having that additional support system, those additional mentors and stuff like that, by being on a team, is substantially better. But the long-term perspective is what happens is market share grows within the organization as you retain and recruit those top producers that build their teams. Other agents in the market start taking notice of that, which really becomes our recruiting tool, and other agents out of the blue just start calling us. They're like, why is your agent's productivity growing? Why is your market share growing? As market share grows, it actually helps the other agents, the middle-of-the-road agents, get additional listings because we're more visible in the marketplace. And at the end of the day, you do grow financially as an organization, because what happens, again, 3 of these have happened just in the last 30 days with our organization, is as those team members start becoming more successful, because we have caps of what they can pay their team members, they start wanting to branch out on their own, to brand themselves, and start building their own teams. And as I said, we've just had in Omaha as a market where the average sales price is under $200,000. We've just had a $12 million producer, an $8 million producer, and a $6 million producer all break off of teams. And in 2 of the cases, 2 of them are starting small teams by themselves. And now we're generating additional revenue off of that. And they're staying with us because they've seen how we've helped their team leaders and others within the organization grow. So my belief simply is the long-term perspective helps you grow your income. The short-term perspective is the mentality of trying to save money or time today, but it negatively affects your business in the future, and it just doesn't make sense to me not to embrace the team concept. And I believe also, if you don't embrace it, I think you're never going to grow with this millennial generation, because they expect to have the ability to work together with others.
That's a really strong point, and I want to ask you a question about that, because so many of the businesses that we consult with or that have inquired on getting help on creating a team-friendly concept have the attitude that they want to have a team solution, but they don't really want to have a team culture. They want to have it so they don't lose agents, but they don't really want to fully embrace it. Speak to the difference of those 2 things.
Well, the first, I think, flawed view is that as brokers, if we think we're going to make money off of every agent, we're just crazy. So I think that's part of the heartburn, is they're like, well, if I'm supporting somebody, I should be making money off of everybody. Well, the truth of the matter is you've got to use, I think, the team concept as a loss leader to take it to the next level. And I agree. I consult with large brokers all over the United States, much larger than me, that have been big for a long time, so they're struggling with this millennial generation, this team concept. And the biggest problem I find is they say we're team friendly, but when you go in there and I meet with their agents without their management team and ownership in there, their agents don't think they're team friendly. They feel like that they put so many restrictions on them that they really don't give them the ability within the environment and culture they have to grow a team. So anybody can say they're team friendly, but the truth is, unless you put into action a plan that allows them to grow their team, in a simple manner. And that's not to say you don't have any rules and you don't have any guidelines, because that doesn't make sense. You can't let them run your company over. But in my opinion, you've got to create a vehicle that allows them, what they're really doing is they're growing many brokerages and many companies within our organization. And my argument to some of these large teams is it's cheaper and more effective and more efficient for you to be with me, even though it's going to cost you money, because I'm going to handle a lot of the issues, the problem solving, and give you an environment to grow your business faster than you can anywhere else. And they buy into that.
So then some people say you're the best recruiters, others say you're the worst. What do you mean by that?
Well, I would say, and we kind of my general manager and I make fun of ourselves, that some could argue we may be the best recruiters in the United States, and others could argue we could be the worst recruiters in the United States, because we don't pick up the phone and call anybody. If someone does not pick up the phone and call us, or one of our agents doesn't say, call this person, they were asking about it, I think they'd be a great fit, we don't recruit them. Our belief is that we need to re-recruit the agents that we have first and that if we do a great job of taking $6 million producers to making $10 million producers, $12 million producers to making $20 million producers, and so forth, everybody in the marketplace takes notice that. When our market share grows, our average agent productivity grows, it becomes real easy to recruit because all of your agents become raving fans saying, you need to be over here, it's a great culture, blah, blah, blah. So in one sense, I think we're good recruiters because we try to understand how did we get where we are? How did we build this building? How did we build this business? And who has supported us? And that's who our primary focus is continue to make sure that we're re-recruiting them. But the byproduct of growing their business and growing our market share is that other people continue to come and talk to us. The truth is we probably should pick up the phone and call more people when we would probably grow faster, but we just don't.
You know, there's a lot of people on this call that have brokerages that might be 5 and they want to grow to 20, or 20 that want to grow to 100. And that natural growth, when you don't have 500 agents out there talking about how great you are, probably requires them to pick up the phone. So you're not saying you're against it. You're just saying you don't do it.
It does. Exactly. I don't do it because we've been lucky. One of the things that I always say, and I stole this from Jay Kinder, who's a national coach, he said in a couple sentences what it took me, basically saying paragraph. He says, money flows to the difference, not to the similar. Money flows to the difference, not to the similar. Means if we do the same thing that every other broker does, if an agent does the same thing that every other agent does, really the only value proposition they have is to be cheaper. And that's not who we want to be as an organization. So if you go on a listing call as an agent and you say, I'll put up a sign, I'll put up a lockbox, I'll put an MLS, I'll put it on the internet, I'll hold an open house if you twist my arm, well, that's what every other agent in almost every marketplace in the United States does. I always tell people when I consult with brokerages, I say you need to come up with a advantage sheet for your company, which is 2, 3, 4 things that your organization can say that other organizations can't say, that differentiates you, that helps your organization make their property more marketable, that helps them. And so I always say something like, we say we're the most productive office, but I say don't say you have the highest average sales price or you're the most productive office or anything like that, unless there's some point in there that explains to the client what does that mean to them, because otherwise all you're doing is bragging, and quite honestly nobody wants to hear anybody brag. So I'm a big fan of, and I went to companies that have hundreds of pages of their advantage, and I said, throw this in the trash, burn it, read it at night to put yourself to sleep. I said, do not give umpteen pages to somebody to read. Dummy this down to 1, no more than 2 pages of competitive advantages that differentiate you. So I love that simple sentence, money flows to the difference, not to the similar. And I think every organization and every agent, if we're coaching, needs to fine-tune what are the points of differentiation. It doesn't need to be many that they're doing that helps them grow their business, and why people should do business with them, and not only do business with them, but do business with them and be willing to pay them more money than others.
You mentioned that you like to show what your agents are doing and let the world know they're kicking butt. Is that what this chart is?
Yeah, the agents, and I always tell agents, listen, this is not about me. This is not about the management team. This is about us. We don't grow based on any one individual. This is about a team effort, and so we like to do things. I mean, we're an organization that went in 2004, if I'm not mistaken, to like 8.5%. So today we're almost over 26.5%. Is like, look, it is your energy, your effort, and look what we're doing relative to everybody else in the marketplace. And what happens is the market already knows about it, but it just reinforces it when they go out on listing calls to say, here's kind of where we're dominating. You know, and the chart you have up here is our primary market, Douglas County. The market I showed before of 26.5% was the metropolitan Omaha area marketplace, because there's another county there that we don't have as much market share in. But it gets the agents excited when you can show them, and they can use charts and listing presentations that gives them a competitive advantage. And like I said, numbers, if you know numbers, you can work numbers a whole lot in different ways. You just kind of keep figuring out, you know, if you've got a smaller brokerage, you may have a lot higher per agent productivity than other ones. So try to figure out what some of the things that are competitive advantages for you. Some are going to be bar charts, some are going to be pie charts, some are going to be graphs, and just find someone analytical to figure out how you can use some of those to your advantage.
Yeah, I think that's great. And having the statistics, when you don't have market share like your company does, what are a couple things you would recommend as a brainstorm that might give a broker something they could think of that would be their unfair advantage, the differentiators you mentioned. When you don't have number one market share, what would you use instead?
If you look at this graph you have right in front of us that says in 2003 we had 8.5%, and our two biggest competitors had almost 21% and 43%. We clearly did not have the biggest market share at that point in time. And so if you're going after millennials, for one of the things I decided when I took over in 2001 was that I think it's critical for, because it's not all just about business. I think it's critical for owners and managers to be approachable. When you walk into our office, my office is the very first office on the first floor to the right-hand side. I have a conference room right next to that, which is right in front of the receptionist area. Don't hide yourself in a corner office in the second or third floors or somewhere where you're out of sight, out of mind. Be there, be approachable. This generation loves to have the ability to talk to people and have them be approachable. So one of my philosophies is I don't want to look, talk, and act like everybody else. I'm fairly casual all the time, which does not work for most people. But be approachable. Let them know you're approachable, not just on business matters, but that you're there as part of my sales meeting today. We're there to help you in personal aspects of your life. And this is one of the greatest things that I enjoy as I get out of our business is when I get a text from somebody saying, thank you for being there for me. Thank you for pushing me. Thank you for encouraging me. I wouldn't have made it through this rough time in my life without you. So I think if you can start differentiating and have this what I call I care attitude with agents, that's going to help attract them. But the second point of differentiation if I'm trying to recruit people is if you're not a great coach, go take some lessons, go do something. Get someone within your organization that coach. Because culture is number one in our organization, coaching is number two. If you have the ability to coach somebody, right, to develop them, to teach them, to coach them and take them to the next level, basically that's going to be a point of differentiation. You say, listen, I'm going to give you personal time. This is what we can do within our organization to help you grow your business to the next level. So if I was a smaller broker, I would talk about the personal attention that they're going to get through coaching and that you're going to have proven techniques that's going to help them learn how to prospect and take their business to the next level. And when I coach somebody, I don't have scripts. And so some people are going to agree and some people are going to disagree with this. But I always try to give them a concept that I know with 100% certainty works for other people around the country. And then I look at what are the strengths of an agent and what are the weaknesses of an agent. And I always try to take, without ignoring the weaknesses, I try to build upon their strengths and say, based on your strengths, let's do this and this and this that will help you grow your business better. I don't know anybody that's ever became the greatest at anything just working on the weaknesses. I think it's easier to get to greatness once you work on what your natural talents are and your strengths are. So I would focus a lot on coaching and the personal attention. I see that you have mastermind groups up here. That's one of the things that we've done that has had an unbelievably positive response. Is we have 12, 13 people in an array of different mastermind groups, from new agents to the team leaders of our mega teams and everywhere in between. And we tell them, we set an expectation within our organization that, listen, we want you to be transparent. We want you to share ideas of what you're doing to grow your business. Now, the natural reaction of a real estate agent is, whoa, we're all independent contractors. We're competing against each other. I'm not sharing what I'm doing with anybody else. And so we break that down. We say, listen, that's not our environment. That's our culture. Our culture here is, listen, while on occasion you will compete with other people in this mastermind group or within our organization, the truth of the matter is our organization, we still got 3/4 of the market. Every 3 out of 4 deals is some other company doing it. So on occasion you're going to compete with each other, but if you share ideas openly with each other, what's working, everybody in the group gets better. Everybody fine-tunes their skills and takes their business to the next level, and it allows us to continue to take more market share away from everybody else and not worry so much about what we're doing. So I love the mastermind groups. And the other thing that we try to do in mastermind groups is we try to get people inspired and motivated. Zig Ziglar, who I think is the granddaddy, and then I'll shut up, the granddaddy of inspirational speaking, said people would always say to him, hey, Zig, that inspirational stuff of yours doesn't last. He says, neither does bathing. That's the reason I recommend you do it daily. So we try to inspire and motivate our agents on a regular basis to keep them positive so they can keep moving forward to do the prospecting and the things they need to do to take their business to the level they want to take it to.
So you and I are big fans of Zig Ziglar. I'm a big Zig Ziglar fan, and I love when Zig says you got to set a goal and you got to break it down to a monthly, weekly, daily basis, and if you don't, you're just a wandering generality instead of a meaningful specific. And that brings up kind of your next slide where you talk a little bit about goal setting and business planning. Tell me how you approach that and how you implement that.
Yeah, so anybody that we would do coaching with, my trainer or I, anybody that's part of our mastermind group, we do this at the beginning of every year, is we make them walk through this one thing, which is a goal setting and a time management tool. And it's called the 1-3-6 process. 1, what is your one objective? I want to make $200,000, which means I got to do 45 deals next year. 3, what are the 3 prospecting, business growth, revenue-generating activities that I need to be doing on a regular basis? We believe and we preach you've got to, uninterrupted, with insane focus, have 2 hours a day, 4 to 5 days a week, 8 to 10 hours a week, minimum of those type of activities. So I want you to narrow down what are those 3 activities that you need to be doing all the time. Darren Hardy, anyone that knows Darren Hardy, the publisher and editor of Success Magazine, says that he studies superachievers versus overachievers, that the best of the best in the world have more balance, more free time, and the primary reason is because they understand how to say no to distractions, and they understand how to focus on 3 or less things. So we pound in their head 3 or less things. Pick out what are the most important things and put your time and energy and effort there to help you reach your goal. And 6 is the time management tool. This is an industry where we struggle with time management. If we want free time and balance in our life and do things that we enjoy with our friends and family, this is critical. What are the 6 things I need to do? I need to stop doing, do less of, or hire somebody else to do so I can focus my time and energy on the 3 things that we've mutually agreed upon doing so I can reach my goal and I can also have balance in my life. So we think that's a critical thing to review with them periodically so they have this subliminal message of, here's my goal, and we make them do dream boards. In our mastermind groups and our coaching, you have to do a dream board. And the dream board can be anything you want because we want them to understand what's their purpose in life, what's important to them.
Yeah, so I love that. I'm not going to have you go into detail on building relationships through the Center of Influence, but these documents are part of the downloads that we're going to make available to everybody at the end of this call. So give me a quick overview on what this building relationships through Super Center of Influence is.
To me, it's very simple. You can ask any college professor in Communications 101, what's the most effective way to communicate? And it's face-to-face. And so we said, listen, guys, if you want to prospect, the most effective way to prospect is face-to-face. I tried to study human behavior to understand how humans are, but it's basically 3 concepts. And first of all, I always tell people, pick out at least 30 people of these, and it's not the people you think. The worst people to have on this list are executives of big companies. They're too busy. They're not going to refer business to you. People are intimidated. They're probably not telling them the thing about buying or selling health. The best people to put on this list are people like hairdressers, personal trainers, nail girls, that nosy mom that stays at home in everyone else's business, because they're going to be sitting with different people every 30, 60 minutes, people chit-chat with them. They're going to know when people are thinking about buying or selling houses. So put a list together. Super Center of Influence, not your 30 best friends, very social people that have the opportunity to basically tell you when people are thinking about buying or selling their house. And then you get 3 concepts that have got to come across. 1 is make them feel special. 2 is set the correct expectation. The correct expectation, I'd like to take a few minutes to talk about how I can grow my business to the next level. So there's going to be some business talking. So make them feel special. How do I set the correct expectation? And then talk about your passion, your energy, your excitement. Survey after survey has proven that people are drawn to passion, energy, and excitement. And the last thing that I would do that we've done that I've changed is I've been taught by the younger generation is go on. Most of those people are going to be on social media. Go onto social media. Look at something that they've done that's been exciting in their life. They took a vacation. Those kids have done something they posted. They say, yeah, I saw last month on Facebook that you guys took a vacation over Christmas to Disney World or whatever they did. Make that emotional connection. So I'm saying get face-to-face, breakfast, lunch, coffee. If you do cocktails, that's not my favorite thing. Set an expectation that there's going to be a short period of time that you just want to chat about how do you grow your business. And everybody that does this on a consistent basis always get referrals they were not getting before.
Vince, I love your energy, man. I love your excitement, and I love the thought process. And we could easily do 2 or 3 hours just talking about and getting more detail on all of the things that you've presented today. 3 takeaways that I have on the slide here. Take me through the 3 critical things that I got out of our conversation, and let's just reiterate those to the group.
My screen's cut off here, but I think the first one says understand the focus on having a team-friendly environment. I think that's critical. I think if you want to reach out to the younger generation, if you don't have a team-friendly environment, if you're not willing to give them an environment where they can work together with others, I think you're in real trouble as this industry continues to move forward. 2 is create that culture that attracts millennials to your organization. I think it's pretty simple. You know, a 30, 35, and 40-year-old, which is not a millennial, that's much more the future of our organization than a 55, 60, or 65-year-old. I think you've got to create that culture, and that's why we're putting in workout rooms and ping pong tables and collaboration rooms. We want that environment where they want to come to work. There's a complete myth that there are generations that does not want to work out of brick and mortar. They actually, my study groups have proven, they like coming together to get together with other people. And the last one is create programs, the mastermind groups, the coaching, classes that helps them develop, that we can help them get to the point of reaching their goals. I mean, to me, those are the 3 most critical things. And if you're going to do that, you got to help them put systems in place, and you have to help them with time management, because in this industry, it's really tough. It's easy to make excuses not to do things.
Vince, I agree 100%. I love the content that you shared with the group. Just because I want to get to Rick Geha real quick and share some thoughts with him. I'd like you to stay on with it if you could, and then as we get to the end of the call, I'll open up the call to questions for everybody. Would that work for you?
Absolutely. I'll stay on the call.
I know you want to get back to moving into that massive structure you're building, but hang out with us just for a few more minutes as I introduce Rick Geha. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a great guest with us today, a second great guest, Rick Geha with the Rick Geha team of Golden State Realty and Leasing out of Fremont, California. I happen to know Rick personally, and not only is he a great recruiter, but he's also a good man. Rick has started in real estate at the age of 22 while he was in college and has been recruiting agents for 23 years. He was a top recruiter for Century 21, not the office, the entire brand, recruited over 7,000 agents for Keller Williams, has owned as many as 7 real estate offices, creating systems and models to not only grow those, but to help those agents stay and be successful. Rick is a phenomenal speaker. He's a great presenter. He's also one of our Workman Success Systems coaches, and is willing to share with us some great ideas of how he's grown some of the greatest offices in the country. So Rick Geha, welcome to the call today. We're glad you're here.
Thank you. Happy to be here. And I would add to that saying helped recruit over 7,000 agents for Keller Williams. I want to make sure there's that's honest.
Well, yeah, it's got to be honest, and we don't do anything by ourselves, do we? It's always empowering and helping our people be successful, and that's what creates greatness.
Right.
So Rick, talk to me about recruiting systems and what's important when you're deciding that you want to grow your brokerage.
I think first I want to say, Vince, great points. I was taking notes and learning from that. And Vince gave us some incredible perspective on it. One of the things that I would originally talk about, and Vince obviously has this in his business, is a foundation of culture, like that your company has to be built on culture. So there's so much that can be said about that. And a lot of times the culture falls into the hands of the person that is running the business. Sometimes that's the owner, sometimes that's the broker, sometimes that's the office manager. And a lot of times we forget that even if I was part of a bigger company and I was one of their offices, you might say that the company would have a culture, but then the individual office's culture is almost dictated by the people that are in that particular office. So there isn't an automatic. Not all BHHS offices are going to be run like Vince's, for sure. Even though they might have a culture of wanting to, it takes someone to step up. I often say that when you have a unique selling proposition, something that's different about you, that people will come because of that. The other thing that Verl and I talked about the other day when we were sharing information about this call was that a lot of times people will come to an office because of a particular value or sales proposition, something that's unique to your office and to your culture. What will keep them there long term is other value propositions that you'll show. One of the things that Vince did here was to itemize all of the different things that they do to present to their agents so that they are retaining agents at a high level. So those are incredibly good. If you're going to be working with millennials, working in this industry at all at this age, I am almost 59 years old. I kind of took it personally when he said that the average age of the realtor is 59. But I can tell you this, that the offices that I just left recently when I went out on my own, something like 70% of the people being recruited were under 32 years old. And that was a purposeful decision made by that particular office manager, and they were so eager to learn. And that's what we say, if 70% of the real estate population are eager to learn, then of course one of your strongest value propositions, of course, would be some kind of coaching and training. The other thing, though, that that Verl said in terms of this call that really stands out is if you have incredible culture and you have something to offer the new agent, you'll have no problem recruiting brand new agents, even the lower producers, because they're going to be influenced by you and your disposition, your confidence level. When you start talking about recruiting high level producers, there's a couple of things that you want to keep in mind. Most of them are not ready to move in the first conversation. In fact, they're going to avoid the conversation because the thing they least want to talk about when they're happy and productive is moving offices. It is important, though, at the level, if most of the offices in the country, I believe, I don't have an accurate statistic for this year, but 5 years ago, the average statistic was that an average real estate office in the United States had 14 people in it. Now, if you got a Vince on the call with several hundred people and you know that there's other offices that have those, for us to survive in the small office environment, we really need to grow in productivity, profitability, and culture. So as those things proceed, you start to understand their importance. So what I say when I'm working with top producers is I want to be their second date. They're happy. I say, good for you. I want to get into conversation with them. I want to brainstorm with them. I'm a producing agent myself, so I might want to meet with a top producer just to be able to say, hey, what are you doing differently that I could learn from so I could grow my business? And I'm willing to, in turn, share what I'm doing differently so that we can have a mastermind between just the two of us. And I might even say, are you very happy where you are? Yes, I'm very happy. Great. If anything ever changes about that, I'd love to be your second choice. I'd love to be the guy in the background waiting to help you out if you decide to move offices. All of these things are critical. Also, in this world of technology, a lot of people my age tend to resist it. I tend to put my arms around it. One of the best technology tools that I've used in way of recruiting is called Recruiting Bridge. I don't know anything about the company or the people that own it. I just know it works really well. And I think any type of system like that, even using your top producer or things like that, could work effectively for staying on top of it. So it's important that you start to set up a business that will be built on future recruiting. In other words, having a mindset that I can get more money into my real estate office by getting my current agents more productive, but that has a limit to it. An unlimited way of growing the profitability and the existence of your office is through recruiting new productive agents. Also, what I want to talk about is the fact that most people, when they're talking about recruiting big producers, you have to remember that only a very small portion of top producing agents want to be the biggest fish in their office. Most top producing agents, especially the millennials, want to be surrounded with other top producing agents that they can mastermind with. So if they can find those other top producers in their own office, they are more likely to stay. So Vince's point again, create masterminds, create levels where they can also help. You'll also find that top producers like to help out. They like to be considered a valuable resource. So you offer them the invitation to be a mentor, to teach a class, and these kinds of things, they always help in retaining them. A couple of simple things that Verl and I talked about in terms of keeping people. Well, before I go on there, let's talk a little bit about the process of it, because I do want to talk about retention. We'll get to that in a minute really quickly. And Verl, please feel free to jump in if you want to direct anything there. The hiring process, I think it's very, very important that you know who it is you're talking to. When I'm getting ready to talk to a real estate agent or they're thinking about coming on, I encourage them to fill out an application and to take a DISC test. It doesn't have to be DISC. It can be any behavioral style. I personally prefer the DISC, so that I can set up an idea before I go about how will I communicate with them such that they'll actually hear what I'm saying. And more importantly, once I've looked at their DISC, and really understand who they are behaviorally, I can understand what points might be most important to them about my office or about me. Then you'll have some interview questions. We can always talk about what kind of questions you can ask. We always like asking open-ended questions and questions that are all about them and their past and how they build on that past to today's future. And then setting up mutual expectations and agreements with them when you hire them. This I can't say enough about. People come to offices all the time, and I hear this all across the United States and Canada as I've been speaking, is that I came expecting this. I was told this, and I did not get it. And ladies and gentlemen, that's a simple fact. We spend lots of time recruiting people, and at the end of the day, once they're there, we take a deep breath, and then we forget about them and move on to who else we're recruiting. And it doesn't work for retaining them. One of the best things you can do, just like you asked your clients about your service level when you sold their home, is to ask your agents within a couple of weeks of being there, how are we doing on getting you transitioned in? What can we do differently? Especially the ones that are cheerleaders for you. Vince made a really good point. Back when I ran a Century 21 from 1993 to 2001, the biggest recruiting tool we had was our existing agents. Yet they were big recruiting tools because we were making it such that it was a blast to be in our office, that they were surrounded with other top producers. There was an air of energy and enthusiasm. Even the title officers and all of the mortgage people that walked into our office would say there's always a hum when we walk into your office.
So quick question, Rick. There's a big difference between hiring someone that can fog a mirror and hiring the right people. I see a lot of brokerages hire, anybody that has a license, whether they're a good fit or not, just because they want to increase their agent count. Speak to that for just a minute.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. One of my favorite points to talk about. So you can always say that I can find the quality within the quantity, meaning I'm going to hire a bunch of people, and you can say, well, don't judge me on who I recruit, judge me on who I keep. And there's lots of ways to look at that. A lot of companies will say, I'm going to recruit a lot of people, and then I'll filter them out. But one of the best things that you can look at is I have a little rule called 8s, 9s, and 10s. I want to surround myself with 8s, 9s, and 10s. And a lot of people say, oh, you mean how handsome they are, or how pretty they look? I go, no.
I'm out.
Yeah. But 8s, 9s, and 10s in this case, if you said that 8s, 9s, and 10s would be people who have a vision, people who are excited, people who are enthusiastic, people who are work hard. You might hire a brand new agent and say, well, he's never been an agent before, but you can ask about past successes in their life, even if they just came out of school. How'd you do in school? What were your sports activities? What were your extracurricular activities? What kind of books do you read? You can find out if you're surrounded with an 8, 9, or a 10. I like to hire 8, 9s, and 10s. I like to surround myself with 8s, 9s, and 10s. So it's very simple. Most of it comes out of asking really great questions. Verl's put some of them up here. I love these. Thank you for putting those up. These are some of the great questions you can put up. We have lots that we can draw from. One of my other favorites that's not on the screen is tell me about a personal time in your life where you were very, very proud of yourself. And when I take the answers down to that, then I say, tell me about a time in your professional life where you were very, very proud of yourself. These kinds of questions can help you see what's important to the agents and to the recruits, because what do we want to be? Like we want to be to our clients, we want to be that perfect realtor to them. And when we're running a real estate office, we want to be the perfect brokerage to each of our individual agents. And that means creating more and more different value propositions, not just the USP that got them in the door in the first place.
Rick, you're not, what I'm hearing is that the recruiting is not something that is accidental. It's very intentionally created. You actually have a system that you follow to attract and hire the 8s, 9s, and 10s. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. And also to take the fog the mirror thing is you got to get out and talk to them before you can determine for sure that they're not just fogging a mirror or they are an 8, 9, or 10. Do you get that?
Yeah, absolutely. So you say you're big on the DISC, and we're big on the DISC as well. Do you use the DISC to eliminate someone if they don't fit into a certain criteria?
Oh,
tell me how you read the DISC.
That's a great question. Absolutely not. There's been a lot of research done by different companies that show that there are certain DISC profiles that have a tendency to create more success. But here's the one thing you need to understand about the DISC. And I got to tell you, it's probably one of my favorite points about any behavioral assessment out there, is that behavioral assessments don't measure for intelligence or integrity. All they're doing is measuring you behaviorally. How will you react under stressful situations or when your back is up against the wall? That's the main purpose of a DISC or a behavioral assessment. So once you know that, you want to determine, are they intellectual enough to behave in different ways than they naturally behave so that they can create better results? Meaning, if they happen to get in the area that I sell, the Silicon Valley, where all the high-tech companies are, a very large portion of our buyers are engineers. I mean, these are people making hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and they're very, very detail-oriented. So you want to adjust your language so that when you're talking to them. Now, if an agent doesn't know that a behavioral style can affect the sale, well, they probably don't know their own behavioral style, and they don't know how to react to others. Way back in the Tommy Hopkins days, in 1980, my very first seminar that I went to when I got my real estate license, he used to say, mirror and match, mimic and match your prospects and your clients. Well, understanding the DISC is learning to mirror and match at the highest level possible. So yeah, we want to use it to understand where the agent's coming from, but we never, ever want to eliminate somebody just based on their behavioral style.
I think that's really important because a lot of people will go to our website, they'll download the free DISC assessment, and then they don't know how to use it. They'll say someone doesn't fit into this category, so I'm not going to give them a second interview.
Yeah, and I know this doesn't relate to real estate, but that reminds me of years ago on TV on these infomercials, they had this amazing wrench that they would sell. And people would buy the wrench and it would sit there. And the company did research and found out, well, we sold this amazing wrench, but nobody knew what to do with it. It's the same thing here. You can have a DISC assessment and look at it, and you might think you understand a little bit about what a D means, an I means, an S, and a C. That doesn't tell you all of the valuable information that you can get from this particular assessment.
How much of your career have you spent really understanding DISC assessments and how to apply it to your interview process?
Almost every day for the last 14 years.
Yeah, it's been a big focus. And for anybody that's on this call, you're welcome to use our site. If you don't have a resource for getting DISC assessments, it'll email them directly to you or people that you're interviewing. If that helps you in the process, we're certainly happy to make that available to you. So now you got the agents in, and we spent a lot of time and a lot of focus on recruiting and going after people. We put them through an interview process, a DISC assessment. Now we've brought them into the company, and we go on to the next person and forget about them. Right. How do we keep them?
You need to actually have, now there are some small offices and there are big offices. So based on your staffing, you've got to understand. And what I loved about Vince is he talked about how do we retain that particular agent.
Re-recruiting, he called it.
Exactly. I love that. And keeping them happy there. One of the ways that we used to go about this, and this goes back to the 90s from my very first mentors in the recruiting arena, that we would say that we want to recruit the entire family. So that if an agent went home and expressed dissatisfaction, the family would also recruit them back into staying. So we were doing birthday cards delivered to the home for the agent. More importantly, birthday cards delivered to the house, not to the office for the spouse. Independently, nothing to do with the agent. We were also getting the entire staff, everybody that had any job in the office that they were paid a salary or hourly, to write handwritten notes. Now, we say 5 handwritten notes weekly minimum per staff member here. You're going to base that on your staff, but everybody in the office needs to get them. And then once a year, we did a spouse night where we did not invite the agent. We invited the spouse or the significant other, and we fed them, and we got them refreshments, and we commiserated with them, if you'll excuse that term. And we got them we told them a little bit about the industry, where the market was, what would some of the challenges be, and then we would talk to them about we would joke openly. We talk about anything said here tonight stays here. We might want to make fun of somebody, and we want to leave it here in the room. And somebody would raise their hand eventually and start the questions. Well, my wife does this a lot after she comes home from work, or she does this. And we would really help them see what it's like to be in the life of an agent and show them what are we doing to help them get a more balanced life. We, I mean that office, you, the broker, the owner, the manager. This thing up here that I have is critical that Verl just put on the screen. Notice it says 25, 35, 45, or 20, 30, 50. If you add those up, they both add up to 100, and that's because that's the percentages of your office. The first number represents either 25% or 20% of your office. You need to be inviting them to be with you, and by you, I mean the person who can most help affect their forward progress. So if it's not you, maybe you're the broker or the owner, and you're not good at that, then get somebody else to be doing that. That they are invited to visit with you a half hour every week. Most of them will not take you up on it. The important part is the invitation. Then the 35-45 is your middle producers and your bottom producers. You can either use the 35% or the 30, and what I like to call the middle one, Verl's got it up there, is the rising stars. We visit with them twice a month in a group, not individually. And then the bottom 50, we might like to call them future stars. You want to give them a positive name. And for those two groups, the meetings always start with the same thing. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to know I believe more in you than you believe in yourself. My job is to help you believe more in yourself than I believe in you and move them forward. So that's going to require classes, and it's going to require that you stay on top of what's progressively going on in your market and teaching accordingly. A quick example, in the market in Northern California, the inventories have hit historical lows. I'm from a town of 230,000 people, and that town today has 49 homes for sale in 230,000 population. Ridiculously low. So what do we teach people? How do you handle multiple offer situations? How do you handle multiple offer counter offers? The things that will most apply to that particular market. And then lastly, I mean the whole thing, we talked about teams today. Honestly, and I don't mean this as an insult to anybody on the phone, you have got to put your arms around teams. People used to talk to me when I used to travel the United States and Canada back in 02 and 03 talking about teams, how to build teams. They would say, oh, I want a team. And you go, well, how many leads do you have? I have one. Well, see, one's not enough for a team. Teams have to be built out of necessity so that you can have leverage and a life. The thing that I'm noticing about the millennials and the younger generation today is they want to quickly get to a life of significance. My whole younger life, I just wanted a life of success. And then after that first half got done, I said, now I want a life of significance. Well, guess what? We've done a good job of showing the millennials and the younger generation that having a life of significance your whole life is possible. You don't have to wait till after you've had success. And we want to combine success and significance. And teams are a way to do that. It helps build leverage. It allows people opportunities to have more structured time off. But more importantly, it allows a training and a constant structure of camaraderie and growth. So
I have to take a breath in between all of that, Rick. That's a lot of information really fast. And Vince, if you'll come off mute, there's a ton of questions. And let me just ask a couple of questions of both of you. First of all, compensation is a big deal in building teams and creating a team-friendly environment for recruiting. Berkshire Hathaway is a traditional split company, or at least perceived as a traditional split company. How have you had to adjust compensation to be able to facilitate and be able to attract teams? Because, I mean, I don't see very many brokerages running effective teams on a 70-30 or 60-40 split.
Yeah, I mean, every broker, you're right. I think the image in the marketplace nationally is Berkshire Hathaway or traditional brokers that don't have 100% friendly programs. And I think you've got to have at least a 90% program if you're going to give top agents the ability to run a team. So we have conventional splits, and we have a chunk of agents in that, and then we have a kind of a, I'll call it REMAX type of fee split, where they pay a fee and then they pay for additional agents and so forth. So we kind of have a crossbreed of different types of commission splits based on what the team or the individual is attempting to accomplish. So I totally agree. I don't think if the top split for someone trying to build a team is 75-80%, it's going to be very difficult with the different business models out there to compete in the marketplace and have that happen.
Sean, with DocuSign, I want to invite you to jump in and ask questions that you feel are appropriate to the call. I'd like Rick to kind of take that same thing on compensation and what really makes sense when it comes to building teams and recruiting them.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand what Vince said makes a lot of sense, but I think it's important to understand that nobody, even a good quality team, is going to be looking for a win-win. I was talking to a gentleman the other day, and he was talking about bringing on a buyer's agent and didn't know what would happen when he approached the broker. And the agent was uninformed in terms of understanding what a real win-win proposition would be. The broker not getting anything from the production of the team is not a win-win situation at all. So the fact that Vince brings up, well, here's an alternative so that we can collect something and yet keep the total collection so that it is reasonable is absolutely what has to happen. If it takes a brainstorm, you have to take into account what are the laws of your state. For instance, in the state of California, and I'm sure it's true in most of the states in the United States, that the broker must be the one issuing the commission checks. So I still do currently know of several teams across the United States, I won't mention companies or states, that all the money is going to the team leader and he is paying, writing checks out to the buyer's agents and other people on their team. That is not going to help the broker long term. And the idea is to have healthy offices, because nobody wants to show up at their office one morning and find that the doors are locked, the electricity is off. And believe me, I've seen that happen.
Especially not a new 100,000 square foot office.
Yes.
Well, that's a very critical point. We have what we call awkward conversations on a regular basis. And if we say no to somebody, we always explain to them why we say no. And we always say exactly what you said is, this has got to be a win-win situation where we're in the business of making money and we're here to help support you and help you grow. But at the end of the day, it's got to make sense for everybody. So we tell them, I mean, some of our rules is you can't be recruiting our existing agents and putting them on your team. So we've had to set guidelines to protect ourselves as a brokerage. Otherwise, we would just have chaos around here.
Right. Sean, yeah, any questions for either of the panelists from you at DocuSign?
No questions from my end, but definitely want to say thank you. It's incredible to be able to get these insights from two accomplished recruiters like Vince and Rick. I've got pages of notes here. Excellent job, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey, Sean, I'm curious, as you're working with so many big brokerages and companies around the country, how much of a focus of what they do and incorporating resources and tools and systems to retain their agents and do teams do you see out there? Is this something that you see as well?
It is. Recruiting and retention comes up in most conversations that we have with brokers, regardless of size, because it is such a critical function for them and for the sustained success of their business. Obviously, our focus on it is much more on the services and technology end of it, which is just one component of the overall message. I think from my standpoint, it's been incredibly enlightening to hear Vince and Rick share their experiences in the areas that surround services and technology, because there's many components that go into building that message that's gonna resonate and drive the desired outcomes.
There's a lot of buzz and there's a lot of interest in the topic, and I want to thank Vince and I want to thank Rick for being here. Vince, any parting thoughts before we wrap up the call today, and then I'll let Rick close it. Everybody, if you look at the screen right now, you can download some of Vince's 136 process and time management and creating a super center of influence document at workwithsuccess.com/recruit. You can also schedule a 30-minute consult with Rick Geha or with myself by clicking on the link that's on that landing page. So if you'd like more information on how to build a team-friendly environment, would like some assistance in doing that, we're happy to help you. We'll do an interview. We'll give you good information, and we'll see if there's an opportunity for us to do business together. So Vince, parting thoughts, and then Rick.
Parting thoughts is focus on creating a culture where agents are excited to come to work and they want to be, and they're given an opportunity through your coaching or programs in place to grow their business to the level they'd like to take it.
Thank you. And Rick?
Absolutely agree with Vince. That's one of the best ways to end this call. And then just add to it, especially for brokerages different than Vince's, is to begin building such that you have a foundational piece that recruiting will always be a part of our business from this day forward.
It's who we are, not what we do.
Exactly.
On behalf of RISMedia, DocuSign, and all of us at Workman Success Systems, thank you for being on the call today. We love the guests that have been here. We love the sponsorship, and we wish you the greatest amount of success in 2016. It's going to be a phenomenal year with unbelievable webinars just like this one. So stay tuned, and let's go out and recruit some agents.